Welcome to Small Practice Support Information Session number 40. In this recording, Stephen Keogh of Keyhouse discusses cybersecurity with Justin Purcell and asks, how secure is your office front door?
You're all very welcome to Small Practice Information 40. I'm here with Stephen Keogh from Keyhouse, and Stephen is one of the original founders of Keyhouse and is the CEO and IT director. Keyhouse are based in Dublin, and they're a trusted partner for law firms across Ireland and the UK, and works with the majority of the top 500 law firms. So this is the final third part of our cybersecurity series in conjunction with the Technology Committee. Thank you very much to the Technology Committee for helping us find all these great speakers. So, Stephen, you're very welcome. If anyone would like to ask us a question, we'll take it on the chat. And over to you.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you very much. Thanks, Justin. Just as I say, feel free to interact here, get the questions up to Justin. He can field them in on the chat line, excuse me. Typical, the voice goes dry just as he gets started. So, I want to talk to you about the cybersecurity, and I'm going to try and I had to listen back over and the two sessions that you've done on this already. So I'll try and build in and lead in from that as well, and go through, and any questions, as I say, pass them through. So one of the things in the whole area of cybersecurity, right, is you're only as strong as your weakest link. So really what you want to be the strongest link in all of this, in terms of what you're doing, how your procedures, your processes, and your people. So we'll come back to that a little bit later. As I go through cybersecurity, everybody kind of knows at this point what it is. You know, it's basically protecting your assets from and the technology and the processes and the people. There, you'll see I've highlighted in red. The people part is really important in terms of getting them trained and understanding cybersecurity and what's involved. And we'll try to go through a little bit of that kind of stuff. So if you want to think about your security, you know, traditionally, obviously, you know, your premises, they went through this last week with you, or the week before, you know, CCTV, who has access to the front door, who has access to files, who can take them away, all of that. The same kind of goes for the principles in terms of the digital side as well. So who has access to your information, who has access to your networks, your documents, very important, your emails, and all of that information. Right, so the same kind of principles apply to your normal security within your office applies to it digitally, right? And really just need to kind of learn and educate yourself around all this information. That's what we'll try and do here today. So just a couple of things here to point, and I won't go into all of these in any kind of given detail, because I know we're caught on time here, so trying to shrink this down can be difficult. But the first thing you need to obviously is your network security, right? The process of protecting that from unwanted users and attacks, right? So all of your network infrastructure that you've got in your office, or also nowadays obviously at your endpoints at home. So your endpoint security, your remote access, which is becoming obviously more with people more working from home, right? And you'll probably see, I saw last week there, they were saying about ransomware being on the up again, right? And that has turned out to be because of security at home, at the home place. So what you find is you have your laptop all nicely secure and everything, then you connect it to your home network. You've got that on with other PCs that are at home, and the child's PC, the wife's PC, whatever it may be, and they're not all necessarily protected, and you can get affected in that way. So they're the kind of things that can go wrong there, and that's why ransomware is very much coming back on the front, which we'll come back to a little bit later. With data security inside your network, the applications are obviously very much have to be protected, obviously, as well. If you're looking, I'll just hit down, yeah. So educating your team on the best practices, make sure that each person is only given access to the appropriate information on the network. A typical thing we see a lot of is everybody has a PC, they get connected to their network, and they have access to everything on that network, right? Which leaves the whole door open that if that PC is breached, everything has got access to, right? So you really should try and limit down the security and the access to what files they have access to and to what systems they have access to, okay? Make sure there's only one, make sure each person has their own password. This is another common thing. We see this a lot actually in small firms where they buy an Office 365 license, for example, and they share it amongst three or four people in the office, right? And they're all using the same username and login, right? And that, from an auditing point of view and keeping track of who's done what, it's just very difficult, you know.
So, Stephen, what do you think that they should do in this situation if they're a small practice? Like, is it take the hit on it and buy individual licenses for each person, or buy group license?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you buy like an Office license. The basic Office license for an Office 365 user, you know, is whatever, €12 roughly, right, per user per month, right? So, you know, and that'll get your basic Microsoft Office and your email and all of that, and you should have your own account, right? Your own email account with your own login to all of that, right? And that restricts everything that you're looking at. And they should all have their own passwords, and you shouldn't be sharing passwords or anything like that as well, right? Because actually still today, even though all this cybersecurity stuff that happens today, you know, from the outside, a lot of it still happens on the inside also. An employee moves on, and particularly when you're in the cloud, they still have access to the data from anywhere if you're in the cloud, right? So you really have to, so you need to be able to disable those accounts. But if you're sharing accounts, you can't disable the account if you're sharing it with somebody else. Okay, so the other thing is the social engineering, which you hear a lot of, right? Which, you know, people go through a lot of this in terms of, you know, they will use various methods in which to get into your office. So email pillaging, you know, they send out emails looking to click a link, or they will socially try and find out information about you to then send you an email to then go find out on Facebook and various different things, all those various different sites that they'll go to try and find and elicit information. And even within your office, the paper that you leave around, or for example, if you're working from home, we've seen this as well, where people are working from home, they leave sensitive information on the desk, right? And the son, you know, your child's best friends in the house, and they can see it all, and you don't know what information is getting out, right? So all these things are socially engineered, and what happens is very often you're not going to get attacked by the person that necessarily got the information. You're going to actually get attacked where they send that information on to somebody else who will then use it, and who will send it on to somebody else who will then use it. And that's how very often this kind of stuff happens. Pillaging on emails, I'm sure everybody has got emails at some point in time with scams of, you know, looking for money for this, or, you know, even click here to enter in some details. You should, any link that asks you for details, you should be very, very careful about clicking on them. I'll show you a little bit of tips and tricks about what to watch out for there. Yeah, so, you know, yeah, links, as I was just saying, tips and tricks on the links of what to look out for. Make sure it is always HTTPS, right? And I'll show you a screen in a minute how to look for that, and look for the lock symbol to show that the site is secure, right? BECs, business email compromisation. So you know, they use this to call an executive or a manager to verify an email. Double check the email, avoid replying if being asked for personal information and stuff that's coming in. Watch out for fake text messages pointing out to websites. So one of the things actually there I just did before I came on with Justin there was, you know, I'm actually very, very easily able to send, it's very easy to send a text message and impersonate Bank of Ireland or AIB, right? And if we get a little bit of time at the end, I might show you how actually, if somebody wanted to share their mobile, I could actually send you a text message today with a link that makes it look like it comes from Bank of Ireland, right? It'll actually end up in text messages that you previously got from Bank of Ireland, right?
Oh.
So yeah, it's very easy to do.
Yeah, one thing the Law Society is saying at the moment, just to reiterate a message that's in our e-zine on cybersecurity, is that you should not be sharing any information like around bank accounts or personal details on the email. You should use it, verify it using a telephone call of a number that you are sure is secure. Because
I would even I saw on the video last week there, I would even go a step further for some transactions where we see some people now, what they'll do is send a €5 or something on the first transaction and verify that they get it. Is a very good way to ensure that you've actually got the right IBAN number. Now, sometimes time constraints on these things can help.
I like that one. That's a great one.
Yeah, no, that's what we do. For example, anything in our office now, for example, over €5,000, you have to send a €5 test connection out, or test transfer out, and then once you've done that, and they say they verify to you verbally that they got that, then you'll transfer the rest of the money. All right. The other thing as well is in that space is engage very early with your clients. Remember, we were just saying there, the weakest link in all of this. You might have learned everything, but you've got to educate your clients as well early. So when you're engaging with your clients, let them know your bank account beforehand, right? And again, you might say to them, here's the bank account, transfer even in €10 to verify, and do that kind of stuff as well. You can do with them as well, if you think you're going to be exchanging large amounts of money.
The other issue on that is to tell your clients not to be sharing your bank account details with anybody else, or sending you an email with them in it.
Yeah, for sure. Protect your organization against finishing and not taking it. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, secure transfers.
I think what you're saying there is really important, to have staff trained up in taking precautionary measures.
Yeah, for sure.
Your weakest link.
Weakest link. Yeah, that's it. That's absolutely it. Yeah. The other thing in terms of passwords, make sure the applications have password access. So if you're using, your case management systems, your account systems, make sure they all have passwords into them, or they're using some sort of single sign-on password where they log in with your Office account, your Microsoft Office account. A lot of these things do single sign-on accounts, which is very useful, that you only have to manage one password. Right, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Encryption. Checking databases and stuff and all of that kind of stuff, it should be encrypted. Data backups goes without saying, and backing up to the cloud is obviously very useful, particularly around ransomware, which I'll talk about in a minute.
So maybe just on the encryption one, just there, Stephen, it's like in Word or Excel that you can select using the options button on when you go File Save As, to embed an encryption in there. That it's not something new or new tool that you need to buy. It's just a habit you need to get into.
It's all a lot of the facilities are all there, and I'll talk a little bit of that as we get through. Past there. Yeah, well, I won't go into the bots and all these various different things. I'll leave the slides up as we go through. But the ransomware area is becoming a big problem again, and we see this with a lot of, particularly the smaller firms as well, where they're using, if you're using Dropbox, right? And you think, okay, Dropbox is in the cloud, so it's all backed up, and you think you're safe enough. But what happens is, actually, when you're using Dropbox, you're probably syncing the documents to your local machine. What happens is you get attacked by a ransomware. You then that ransomware encrypts that data. That data gets uploaded to the cloud into Dropbox, and then the next person beside you who also has their data encrypted. So they're using things like Dropbox. Actually enhances the whole ransomware thing potentially in the cloud. And not only that, unless you're backing up your Dropbox account, you can't recover it. Right? It's very difficult to recover. Even as we've seen a site where they got the ransomware in, they ended up paying the ransomware, and when using the payment of the ransomware, it still wouldn't fix the problem, right? Because the stuff was actually, it only fixed what was actually on the machine, not what was up in the actual Dropbox cloud. So be very careful. So we see this when people are working from home again as well. As they're working from home, this is becoming more of a thing happening again. It kind of died away there for about a year or two, but it's starting to come back.
What would be the solution to that problem, Stephen?
Yeah, so the main thing which we'll come to around protecting your PCs, so ensuring your desktops are up to date with antivirus, ensuring them that they're up to date with the securities and the patches from Microsoft and all of those, ensuring all of that is done. So whoever's looking after you, and it can be difficult with small firms. They may not have, an IT provider that they're paying a support contract with. I'd recommend you kind of do that, because for a small firm to try and keep up with all this stuff and keep it all up to date all the time, it can be very time consuming. So it is actually worth paying the extra few quid to somebody to say, right, I'm going to keep you from a security point of view all up to date. Right. The other thing around, which we'll come to now, is password management. Is really important.
That, I just wanted to talk about the remote storage without naming names, but like, is there that's a really big issue? Like, is OneDrive okay, or
no? They're all, you see, okay, like they're all, well, they're not all compromised. They're not technically they aren't compromised. It's you that's compromised. Right. Okay. So as far as they're concerned, it's your problem. They just see the data as being encrypted by this ransomware. Okay. So they haven't been breached. It's you that's been breached. Right. So it's a bit like you left your house and you left the doors open and off you went. So somebody's come in and taken everything on you, and will the insurance cover that because you left the house open, So those kind of things, so with all of those, this is a big area for us on the case management side, because you'll find with case management systems, we kind of hide all of that data from these kind of tools, right? So we don't use the likes of Dropbox or any of those kind of linking tools. Or box.net or whatever you want to, whatever one you wanted to use, or OneDrive. We tend to put them into back-end blob storage where only the application is allowed access to it. Right? So the only way to get access is to validate against your application, and then the application can extract out the data. And it's very hard to extract it all out. And even if they extracted it out, they'd have to extract it out, encrypt it, but so what? It's still in the back end. So using a case management tool or a document management tool can help with that, right? With your OneDrives, stay away from syncing it to your local machine. Use the applications that are online, the websites and stuff. But sometimes people like the tools on the local machine because it gives them that kind of familiarity of using folders in Windows, which is what these ransomware things all attack. Okay. So protect yourself again in terms of password management. I'd say is one of the biggest. It sounds so easy, right? But the amount of people we see that don't manage their passwords properly, and it can be sometimes a bit difficult to do, particularly when you've got a lot of different sites and you've different passwords for this and that and the other. And how do I keep track of them all? I recommend one site to you, lastpass.com. And we'll have a link to that on the end, where you can have a kind of a master place where you can store all these passwords, and they're all stored there encrypted, so it's completely secure there. And what happens is then that if one of your sites gets breached in some shape or form, you can just change that password, and you're not inflicting on any other system. The other thing is, with your passwords, is kind of just make them kind of use a phrase that you're going to remember, but make it nice and long. I'd make it up to 10 or 12 characters, right? Of length, and then never change it. You should never have to change your password. This thing of changing passwords every 3 months is a nightmare. And I wouldn't inflict that on anybody. And it is actually the recommended, I'll send a document around password protection from Microsoft. It's in their recommendations as well that you no longer go through this cycle of change your password every 30 days. It's shown, it's actually proven to be less secure actually. So the other big thing here, MFA, which is the multi-factor authentication, you have to, it's an absolute must. You must have multi-factor authentication when on the cloud in particular.
Maybe just explain that in sort of layman's terms.
Yeah, so multi-factor authentication is essentially when you log into your application, or like your Microsoft Outlook for your email perhaps, when you log into that, it should ask for your username, it should ask for your password, and it should then either text you a message with a code that then you have to enter that code in for it to allow you into the system. So it's verifying, it's doing a double check on who you are, right? And I'd recommend to you that you would use something like the Microsoft Authenticator app, for example, which enables you to have all your applications or all your things that are in the cloud under multi-factor authentication. And what you can do is then, as everything I log in, so when I log in for example in the mornings, and I switch on my PC first thing in the morning, and I go to launch my Outlook or my Teams or whatever it is, it'll say, do you username and password, which I do, I log in, and then it'll pop up on my phone to approve that login. So I don't even have to enter in the code. I just have to get my phone, hit approve, and that's approved. A bit like you'll see some of these things on banking online. Now the AIB one is very good when you're logging in on the AIB one. You put in your PIN code, and then it asks you to approve it on the phone. Right? Yeah. Works very well. But if you're in the cloud, you must have it. It's an absolute must. Right? Because what happens is people then have access to that information from anywhere if they can just find your username and password. And we had the situation there. There was a situation for a reasonable sized firm, 20, 30 users firm, and they got compromised by email. I won't say how, just an email came in, they got compromised. So somebody was able to log in to their email systems. They were then able to do route all of their mails to another email box, right? And then set up an account whereby they could start requesting money out from the firm, and it all looked completely legitimate. And that site didn't have any multi-factor authentication, and they were logging into their Microsoft Office unknowns to them from a country God knows where. Right, and they were impersonating that firm for a good 2 months before they found out. Right, that's how long they were working on it once they had got in. And when you look at the site, you could see you can actually, if you look, sometimes the LastPass does this as well actually, whereby you can check your username and do a search on the dark web and see has your username been compromised in the dark web in any way, and that site was all over. Right, in the dark web. Yeah.
Stephen, we're just coming up to about 22 past 1, okay. So I'm just conscious that.
Okay. So
anyone has a question, they can ask us on the chat.
Yeah. The mobile devices are very, very important as well in terms of encrypting them. Particularly, make sure you've got remote wipe management on them. Okay, so that if they do get lost, that you can get onto your IT person or wherever it is and say wipe that device. Right, so that if that device ever comes online in any shape or form, it'll automatically be wiped. Okay, that should happen for any kind of remote devices. But I think
just how would I get that remote wipe? Where do I go? Or is it
well, that's available on the Microsoft Office 365. There are additional modules available to you to be able to do that. So you pay an extra kind of €2 a month to get additional security features, and one of them is that remote wipe facility. Google also do it for Android. Apple do it, for example, for iPhones as well. Okay. Yeah, think before you click, right? In fact, I'll show you here. One of the things, obviously, a lot of the spoofing emails that you get in, right, you have to really be careful on the links that you're clicking into. And I'd recommend to anybody that if they're looking at a link, the bit that you want to look for is the bit in green there. You see the bit in green? So what that is, it's the domain before the first slash, right? So you see there, it's .com/. So anything after the slash doesn't matter, but it's before that up to this point here. So you're looking for the .com, or it'll be .eu or .ie, and then it'll be some domain name and that's the bit that you're looking for. And you want to familiarize yourself with all of the bank's domains and all of the people that you'll be transferring money with domains, right? So any of the banks, you should know what their domains are, so that when you get some stuff in, you're able to check that. Okay, to do it on your phone, you usually hit on the link, and because a lot of these things you're getting on the phone, so you click and hold your mouse, hold your finger on the button on the link. If obviously people are central to all of this, I kind of educate and arm them, right, as much as you possibly can. I'd recommend to you, there are online tools. WebRoot is one. That's very good for educating your staff. You can send a link around and it'll go through a video. There's another one there I'll also do, which we've sent around to our staff. All our staff go through it every 6 months as part of our ISO 27001 accreditation. They have to get retrained every 6 months on all this stuff, right? And you can get that for as little as €2 a month kind of stuff, or pay a one-off to get a video sent to you. So I'll provide some links on getting that that training, and it's usually about 45-50 minutes to get the initial kind of stuff that you need to have, right? And doing that and arming your staff and arming your clients and your suppliers. Look at your suppliers as well, and all of those people as well, in terms of arming them. So just some takeaways, some quick technical things. I won't go into them all, right, that you need to do. MFA, I've mentioned. Enabling forwarding rules. This is alerts. So you can enable a thing in the background which enables alerts for auto forwarding of emails, right? And I recommend you get your IT people to enable that for you. So if somebody sets up an auto forwarding rule, you're alerted to it, right? Very good to know, right? Because this is how once they get in, this is the kind of things that they will do to your email. Global admin accounts. This again for small firms, this is where they hack in. So if you, as the owner of a business, have global admins, they basically have access to do everything with your Office 365 and do everything that they might need to do, right? Including set up new users and hide themselves in the background. So you should not have global admin account, even though you're the owner of a business or whatever. You should be limiting your access, right? And your IT should be doing that. Auditing should be turned on. Consider enabling TLS and DKIM and DMAC. I won't go into them too much. They're all tools that enable to catch these spoof emails and stuff that do come in. So it's worth considering those kind of things. Again, I have links at the end of this that you can go and read up on those kind of things if you want to get into it. The process around control of, we're up to 27 minutes. Wow, it goes fast.
There was a quick question there, Stephen. If you have your systems managed by a reputable case management system, can you be confident they will protect you from attack?
To the most part, from a technical point of view, yes. Right, provide the controls. So like an IT company can go and put in Office 365, for example, or put in another case management system, right? But you decide to have, just a username and password. You don't have multi-factor authentication in place. You don't have security auditing. You don't have global admins restricted. So you have to implement the best practice as well as the system as well. So yeah.
It sounds like you need eyes in the back of your head.
I know, it's like, look, listen, there's an ex security guy from Matheson's actually, who now heads up the security risk cyber international, works with the FBI and everything. And if you were to spend a day with him, I tell you, you'd be terrified when you go through this stuff. Yeah, but he would go through. He would say, look, it is, again, it's education. It's getting yourself into all of the things that go on in this space, right? And just be mindful of, if you stay away from those, clicking on, particularly on the emails, clicking into links and stuff on emails. Be just really, really careful.
Yeah. So we're just coming up to the end there now, Stephen. Yeah. So if you want to just thanks a million for talking to us today. Is there any last few tidbits you'd like to give us, or I know you're going to share the presentation.
Yeah, I'm going to share the presentation. Yeah, because I think there'll be a lot of I have a lot of websites there that you can go to. I definitely recommend the Cyber Risk International, the LastPass, and WebRoot. WebRoot is very good for this, right? For educating yourself, right? Costs €2 a month to do it. They'll keep you up to date with all the things that are going on, right? And they'll give you videos and stuff of how to, arm yourself and keep things away. Yeah.
Brilliant. One last question there. Are Keyhouse on the cloud?
Yes.
Yeah.
Keyhouse are on the cloud. Yes, absolutely.
So your contact details are in there if anyone wants to contact you.
Yeah.
I presume you'll yeah, brilliant. So we're just coming to the end of our small practice information session. Just a bit of a shout out. Anybody out there who hasn't filled out their business recovery survey, I'd really appreciate if we're coming to the end of the closing date of it, and we just want to get our numbers up on it. So if you have any feedback for us, it'll help inform us going forward. I'd really appreciate if you'd fill out the survey. If you haven't got a survey link, you can email me and I'll get you one. But we really need your feedback. We're taking a week off next week for Easter, so happy Easter, everybody. And we'll be back with Lays and Nolte on client intelligence marketing. So listen, Stephen, thanks a million for joining us today. I think you've given us a bundle of really good tips and insights into how it works. And I really think the more I study cyber security, the less I know, and the more I need to find out, and everybody needs to find out.
That's it. That really is the message. Yeah.
So from everybody with us today, thanks a million, and Sloan, and everybody, happy Easter, and we'll see you back here on April 14.